As we always start this study group that we have on the wonders of the week, is I started it and we're focused on the health of first Rabbi Yitzchak ben Breina Malka, who unfortunately is in the hospital, and we're all praying, as we will learn this week about prayer for his strong and speedy recovery and being in full health and being able to inspire us even more. I'll start with Arachanonat Ben Ayala, my son, who's having a very, very difficult time. They're trying to find him a different hospital. Bezrat Hashem, he should find the best hospital that will take care of him and get him also to be in great health. And Bluma Bat Ginen Del Tova, our friend, and Levi Avia Ben Ayala. Okay, so that's for the beginning part in order to be healthy. We're going to start again with the explaining where this is coming from. This shiur about the Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim, is starting from this year, started from the 120th chapter, which our Lubavitch Rebbe was born 119 years ago, so he's going into his 120th year, and we know that his neshama is a very like a leader, like a Moshe Rabbeinu, like a leader of a generation, neshama, and in general, we can learn a lot from it. And again, we'll learn more about what we can learn from our neshama as well as from the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation. And going into the chapter of 120 is starting the 15 Shira Ma'alot, the 15 special chapters that are almost a book of Tehillim on its own that King David wrote. And what they allude to is to having a shlom bayit, to having good, peaceful relationship, both obviously in the simple sense of bayit, of a house, of a home, of husband and wife, and also the relationship going from that, first the family, and then our friends, and then Klal Yisrael, we care about every Jew, and then every person, as we know in the Mishnah. So at the end of the day, this relationship and developing this relationship and keeping this shlom bayit, having real peaceful home, a place to be, is something that we learn from the Song of Songs, which is Kodesh Kodashim, holiest of the holy, very, very, very special part of Torah. And Rabbi Ginzburg said that these 15 years are a good time to show the world, obviously starting from us and going all around, the ability to develop these meaningful and peaceful relationships and spread those words to everyone. So as part of that, a Mazel Tov is deserved for Rabbi Ginzburg's granddaughter, the daughter of Mendy Handel in 770. She got married to Axelrod. The chasna, the wedding is in the States, and unfortunately, and again, as we said in the beginning, may Rabbi Ginzburg have speedy and strong health. But until then, he was not able to make it. So as part of that, he sent them a wedding gift, a booklet that explains the first part of the Shir Shirim explanations in the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad, is book of Likutei Torah. So with that is the beginning our explanation of what is this involving. So again, you can see on the screen the wonders of the week. We're going to go to the first part. We always love every part, and there's especially some nice parts at the end. But in the first part, we're going to talk about this part comes after last week. This is chapter 2, Shir and Bet. In this chapter, Rabbi Ginzburg explained that the second mamar that explains about Shir Shirim explains about the way to pray, and this is something very special. That with the start of Hasidut, which started with our Baal Shem Tov, and going down, there's a very special way of davening. However, the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad, took it in a different angle, meaning in general, if you look at the Hasidim in general, they daven with a lot of emotions and songs and heart, a lot of let's call it. I don't know what's a good word for it, but a lot of connection, let's call it. Sorry for not finding the best word, but a lot of connection, a lot of emotions, a lot of being into the prayers. The Chabad prayer, you less see a connection, you less see, usually Chabad Hasidim are a very, they say what's needed to be said. But you do see a couple of things. Number one, we will say that the first Rebbe of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe, is very well known for davening praying in a way that would he would run around the room without even noticing, like very, very special way of prayer. So that's something interesting. But we know that our Lubavitch Rebbe, we've seen him, not myself unfortunately, but people that have seen him pray see him like very much standing in the same place and not moving. However, it is very special in Chabad that Chabad puts a lot of emphasis on learning and being connected to Hasidut before you pray. So that's something special. But if we want to talk about the points within the Ma'amar, the general concept is we're looking at it differently, okay? And this is so special. This week's wonder is like when I learned it with someone, she said that it's amazing how we prayed until now. It's just a completely different way of looking at it. The basic way, I'll start with the basic way of everyone seeing a prayer. What's a prayer? That I know that God is here and is caring, and I say to him, listen, I want something. I want food. I want money, whatever it is that I want on the lowest level. And people that go to the higher level say that I want to have redemption and Mashiach and all these nice things. But at the end of the day, that's how we look at prayer. Hey, God, I want to talk to you. So here, the first Rebbe of Chabad shows us a much deeper and more connected way to look at it and to understand and to feel what prayer is. And the basic concept, and I'll try to explain it the way I understand it. I'm sure that if you learn it inside, you'll be able to learn more. But the basic way I understand it is there's a couple of levels going on here. The connection between prayer is the connection between Kudsha Brichu, which is God in the sense that how He is outside this world. Ushchinte, the Shekhinah, is the sense of how God is connected to this world. Shekhinah is also a sense of all of our souls together, like the collective of all of the Nishmot Israel is connecting it to one way of looking at God. So those two ways are talking to each other when you pray. So how does this happen? And again, this is the way I see it based on this this week's wonders. The first thing is the simplest thing. There's a guy, there's a Jew, there's me and you and every other person that's standing there and saying words of prayer. Okay, that's just the simplest way. The famous saying is that we don't want our prayer to be like the bird is talking, like just tick 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 tick. We want it to be um, more connected. But that's the second level. The first level is just like a bird, just like a dookie, just like a pirate bird, or just like in this generation we can say just like a machine. There's a person, and again, if you look at a shul, especially a Litvak shul, you can see everyone standing there and just saying the same thing. In a Hasidic shul, you can see that people are all around. Very special, different way of looking at the synagogue when you go in there. But the simplest sense is people are standing and saying the same words from the prayer book, from the Siddur, and just saying it. What is the second? What is the connection? What is the special part that connects to tefillah? So what the first Rebbe of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe, is explaining to us is that what you're doing is you're having that person that's talking is reflecting on the soul that you have, and we'll discuss that a little further. And that reflection is coming out and connecting to God on the highest level. And that reflection is also connecting to all the Jews, which we'll discuss a little bit later. But what are you doing? Again, many people can do something without, like, you can stand in a place and just punch in a code, or you can drive your car, or you can do many things and you're not there. Like, you're looking at it and saying, oh, the last 15 minutes of driving, where was I? Like, you were definitely not there. You, which is, the lowest level to look at it is your thinking, your thoughts. But even deeper, you emotionally, as we know the famous saying from the Baal Shem Tov, that you are where your thoughts are. So you are not in it. So what are you doing when you're praying? When you're standing. So again, unfortunately, we know that many people, when they pray, they think about other things. There's also a sense into that. We'll say, I'll stop for a second, although we're always, the clock is ticking, as always in life. But I'll stop for a second to say a story that I like to say, a mashal, that I think has a lot to do, and I say it many times in business, that I try to explain to someone what is being there, and what does thinking have to do. So there's a famous mashal parable that a person is praying, and as he's praying, he's starting to think, wait a minute, my partner is not Jewish, but he's going to do this, and then he'll do this, and then after that he'll wait around and then do this and this and this. And after he does that, he's going to take away all my shares and take away all my money. Now he gets very nervous, this person. So he walks over to the rabbi. At the end of the davening, he walks to the rabbi and says, Rabbi, the non-Jew is going to steal all my money. The rabbi looks at him and says, no, he's not. He says, oh, Rabbi, how'd you know? Are you a prophet? Navi? No. Your partner doesn't pray. So he doesn't have time to think about all these things. There's a lot to learn from this parable, this mashal. You can first learn what does it mean when you're stopping to think, that you can go deeper. Again, we would like to go a lot deeper than this person thinking of business ways of tricking himself, but we would like to go a lot deeper into the soul and into what we want to say to God, and what does this world want to say to God, what do all the Jews want to. There's a lot deeper meanings to go to, but we can see that there's two parts in the prayer. There's the part that's standing there and talking and saying what we're supposed to say and making the movement, and there's the part that thinks. That part, according to this beautiful ma'amar by the Alter Rebbe, that part, what it does is it basically observes, it watches what is happening here. there's a beautiful story unfolding where one part of God is talking to another part of God, and I'm standing in the middle and just observing. It's a phenomenal way of looking at prayer. It's very deep. Um, so that's basically what the Ma'amar is going to talk about. Now, before we go into the Ma'amar itself, we must say that this same way of looking at things is also applicable to a husband and wife, to a marriage, to a relationship. What's the applicable part? That when a couple speak, they should know that when they're talking, they're allowing for they're allowing. We know that the husband and wife that have good shlom bayit, have a good relationship and peace and love in the house, that allows room for Shekhinah, for God. That room, where does it come out? Where do you see God in that relationship? When they talk. We know that having a conversation is very, very like the highest level of connection, meaning obviously there's physical connections, but at the end of the day, what differentiates a couple from people in the street, from animals and everyone in the street, is the fact that they can talk to each other. That talk is cherished by us and by God, and as long as it's a high level talk, as they learn things together, they talk about things, you can get out of this talk, especially when the woman talks, which we know that the woman has the talk in general when it came down to the world, sicha, 9 parts went to the woman and only 1 part to the man. So she has a lot more ability in her talk. In general, when we talk about relationship, and again, this is saying a general rule and not getting into it too much, but the man is supposed to be quiet and the woman is supposed to talk. That's a general way of looking at a relationship. And that obviously there's also a part where the woman is quiet and the men talk. There's always intertwining relationship and inner inclusion between the husband and wife, and a good relationship allows for all different angles. But on top of that, there's the simple angle. And the simple angle is that the woman talks more. And when she does, if you listen very well, and we very much know that a person can talk and not listen. And even when he's being quiet, he's just thinking about the next thing that he's going to say. So he's not listening. But if you listen to what, in this case, your wife is saying, you're able to bring out of it things that God is telling you. And Rabbi Ginzburg brings this from Nafshi Yatsa B'dabero, that our soul, which is the higher level, comes out in what we speak. And sometimes in things that we didn't even think about it. Like sometimes a person can speak and he's saying, oh, I was thinking differently, but as I was talking, this is what came out. That again, we know the famous Freud, the psychologist, that said that when someone is means to say one thing and says something else, what the thing that came out is coming from his deeper, whether you want to call it the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, or his untouched lower levels. Again, we don't like those levels. We don't like dealing with them. In general, we like the higher levels. We like the nafshi yatsa b'dabero. The nefesh is a higher level that comes into our. It's the lowest level of neshama, but it comes into our world, and when it comes into effect, is at the words b'dabero, when he was speaking. So it's the same concept. So okay, let's try to get back into let's see what the next part will explain. So Rabbi Ginzburg explains something um, very usable in the day-to-day life. That just like when you're praying, there's times where you're praying more connected when it's spontaneous and connected and just out there. There are times that are as we say, things are stuck. It doesn't flow as easy. The same thing in a relationship, that a husband and wife should not expect that their relationship will be spontaneous always. Just like your prayer is not going to always be spontaneous, the basic work that a person has to do, and I'll say this in general, when we're speaking about prayer, we know that it says Shat Slota, Shat Krava, that the hour of prayer is the hour of war, meaning, as we illustrated in the story that when we were saying that the guy was thinking about his business. In general, it's very hard to focus in prayer. It's the same thing about relationship. Many times, especially if we have a busy schedule or a busy time of life, etc., it's very hard to focus. And when you're not focused, many times things just don't happen. So you're saying, why don't they happen? Why aren't things spontaneous? Why isn't love just a thing that happens? So again, if you're a more deeper Jew or person, you would say, why am I not praying spontaneously? Why is it that I have to think of God very hard? And if God is here and He loves me and I love Him, Hashem, why am I not davening? And the same thing about a wife. Why is it not spontaneous that whenever we talk, it's just easy and we see a very deep level? That's not how it works. And Ish v'isha zachu, that we said that the Shekhinah, the higher level of God that goes into the relationship between a man and woman, comes out when there's zachu. Zachu is, you can say it as lucky, as I won, just like a raffle. But you can also say it as izdakut. Izdakut is to shine, to make clean and clear, to have a lot of work and create something that's a good vessel for this to happen. So many times, in order to make our prayer and our relationship, and I'll say even more, anything that we want to connect to, everywhere that we want to be, it's not necessarily going to happen spontaneous. There's also a spontaneous side, but that spontaneous side doesn't always come into play. And if you focus on yourself, it will not only not come into play, it will be ahava tluya b'davar. That we know that there's two types of love. There's love that's based on something. For example, you can say about let's talk in business. It's much easier. You can say about a business partner that I love the guy. Why do you love the guy? Because he provides me with work, let's say, or with cash or whatever it is. So what happens if he stops paying you? What do you mean? Forget it. So that's the lowest level of love that's connected to things. To tluya, it's sitting on something physical. It's the same thing about a marriage, or the same thing about even the relationship with God. We know that one of the famous times that people lose their faith is when something doesn't go well. Because the whole reason why I'm good with God is because I think I understand what's going on here, and we're pretty cool. I like what's going on in this world. I feel like it's okay. There's bad things and good things, but in general, I'm okay with it. If Chaz v'Shalom, not Allah, Bezrat Hashem, we should have redemption soon, but if there are bad things in the world, then people start losing faith. No, it's not good. Same thing about our relationship, and the same thing about prayer. We want to be connected, and in order to be connected, we have to work on ourselves. Okay, that's the first part in general that we went into. The second part of this explanation is explaining La'avin inyan kabbalat pnei Shekhinah. What does it mean that I want to see God? I want to connect to Him in the prayer. So we know that we say Lecha dodi likrat kala, that in general the dod is the husband, let's call it in this case, is going to the kala, the wife, and that also illustrates that God is going to the Shekhinah. B'nei Shabbat, Shabbat is the highest level, the Sabbath, Nekabela. So there's a nice, beautiful wonder that Rabbi Ginzburg goes into. We don't have enough time to look into it, but it has a lot to do with the word chen, which is beauty. And this is beautiful. We can see that the Alter Rebbe is saying that Chachamim said, "Hashmea la'oznecha ma she'ata motzi mipecha." You should say it loud enough that you can hear the words that are coming out of your mouth. Ki Knesset Israel nikret ata. So let's evaluate the word ata in Hebrew. So there are three letters. Let's take a step back. What is ata? Every time we say a prayer to God, we say a blessing. We say Baruch Ata Hashem. That saying ata, you, is referring to God in a level that's very, very close and connected. It's a very high level. Saying, blessed are you, God. Like it's like we say that at the end of days, what will symbolize the Mashiach in the highest level is that we'll be able to say Zeh, that this is God. And in that, there's a sense of that we're able to say Baruch Ata, that blessed are you. The word Ata, you, is referring to God, and just like, I mean, obviously in a mashal, but just like a friend, just like someone that's there, right there. Are you? Blessed are you. So what is this word Ata? Ata has Aleph, which is the first letter of the alphabet, Tav, which is the last letter. So it really involves all the letters, and then Hey is also referring to the five. Hey is numerically the number 5 of the Motzot Apeh, which is the inner part of the mouth that makes the talking sound. Meaning the fact that we can talk is based on 5 things. We will not get into it, but it also is referring to the 5 extra letters that have an end letters, Mantzapach. The end letters are the feminine side of the alphabet. So again, we can already see that the Alter Rebbe is saying something, obviously, that we're explaining as a given, but is saying that there's no it's like saying that the only thing that you must have when you pray, rak shishma, only to listen, vidbonen, and to look into or to understand, mashata, what you, and in this case, what is you, who Knesset Israel, is the higher level of God, the Shekhinah, the level of all of our neshamot, all of Israel together, motzi mipiv, perush chayuto v'nishmato. Yaakov chevel nachalato. That what you're taking out of your mouth, your chayuto v'nishmato. Chayut is like livelihood, but nishmato is your soul. So you're taking out your living part and your soul part, just like it says Yaakov chevel nachalato. So what we have to understand is that what's happening here when you are praying, and you as every Jew that's saying a prayer, or every person that's connecting to God that's saying a prayer, that we know that there's different levels of connections. But at the end of the day, these connections is basically seeing how God is connecting from a lower level, which is the words that are coming out of my mouth, and from a higher level, which is God listening. And where do we see this? We see this from the famous saying, the Shekhinah medaberet mitoch krono shel Moshe, that the Shekhinah is speaking out of the throat of Moshe, of Moses. And why are we saying that? We're saying that to say that just like the leader Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking, when he speaks, it's God completely talking. In every sense, when we pray, it has the same. It could have the same sense into it. That that this has to do with Yaakov Chevel Nachalato. What is that? What is Yaakov Chevel Nachalato? That the rope of Jacob is his children. Let's say Nachalato is his inheritance, but really it means his children. As it says in the Tanya, that the Ve'inem Shachat V'Yiridat Nefesh Ha'eloki La'olam Hazeh, that the soul, when it comes into this world, להתלבש בגוף האדם, to be in the body of a person, נמשכה מבחינת פנימיות ומקום הדיבור הוא הבל העליון, that it comes out of the very high level of speech that is coming from within, let's say, a level of God. המרומז באות היתתה, that is hinted in the last letter of God, the hey tata, the last final hey. כנאמר להם כמו שכתוב, ויפח באפיו נשמת חיים, ויהיה אדם לנפש חיה. מאן דנפח for it, that when God gave livelihood to Adam Rishon, to Adam and the first person, it gave him a soul that is coming into him, and we say that what became of it? What became of it? Vayeh Adam lenefesh chaya, and we know that the famous translation is leruach v'malena, that a person can talk. Meaning the special thing about a person, that when God gave him his soul, which came from a very high level of God, what came out of it, basically, trying to take something very high and just explain it in the simple words, is that God gave him the ability to speak, but that ability came from a very, very high level. וזה שכתוב, חלק השם עמו, יעקב חבל נחלתו. That's the same pasuk as we said before. Perush, that we're explaining it now. Again, this is the book of Tanya from the Alter Rebbe. We're trying to use this to explain the Ma'amar about Shir Shirim, the Song of Song explanation of the Alter Rebbe. So, פירוש כמו חבל, just like a rope, על דרך משל שראשו אחד קשור למעלה וקצהו למטה. That just like a rope, one side is very high up, connected to God, and the other side is right with us. The same thing is how we are, the inheritance of Jacob is together. We already spoke about this part. I'm going to skip it. Also, we're very tight on time. וכל ישראל, and we're going to continue. אחד מעורב בחברו, מה שחסר לזה נמצא בחברו, וכשיצטרפו כולם כאחד, הם קומה שלמה כידוע. That all of Israel, one way of looking at it, and this is a very special way, and since we're running out of time, I'll say a little bit of the whole explanation of this part of Tanya. What we're trying to explain is like this. There's two parts to a person, and that's basic Tanya, one-on-one. Two parts to a person. Nefesh Elokit, a soul that's connecting to God, a higher level of soul, and Nefesh Behemit, the soul that's a lower level that's connected more to the animal side of a person, to the physical side, let's say. Just to make it very simple, it's not a physical and a spiritual. Now, which part is connected to everyone else and which part is not? So the spiritual part is connected because we're all connected, and that's this pasuk that says Yaakov Chevel Nachalato. It's like a rope that's made out of very little strings, and it's all connected, just like we are all connected. What is the part that's connected? The part that's connected is the soul, is the spiritual part. The physical part is very much separated. Rabbi Ginzburg will explain a beautiful way of looking at separation between people. What could be the things that will separate people? There are 5 things. Again, we won't have time to look into it. But what is connected and what is separated? The physical is separating because I want things that he doesn't want and vice versa. But the spiritual is connected. We're all connected, the same spiritual. Now, when you're praying, you need to connect to Yaakov Chevel Nachaloto, to the spiritual part. And what happens when you connect to that, you connect to everybody. You're bringing out the part of God that's connecting the Shekhinah, which is connecting to everybody. And what happens is that part connects to God. And what does it say? It says everything that we say. If you look at our prayer, everything is said as a people. What do we say? We say, God, we should have health. We don't say, God, I should have health. Refa'enu Hashem. V'nerafeh, or shi'enu. We want redemption. We want refuah. Even when we speak about knowledge, you give a person knowledge. Chonenu. Again, all of us together. We're looking at the collective. Why is that? Again, if I'm praying, what does he have to do with it? If I'm getting health or Baruch Aleinu, I'm getting food, or I'm getting money, or I'm getting knowledge, what does all of this have to do with everyone else around me? I mean, a person could think that when I'm praying, I'm talking to myself, I'm talking to God myself. But no, that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is allowing the spiritual part, which is connected to everyone, which is the part of me that's not physical, that's not separating between me and him. It's all together, and that part is talking to God. Now, what happens when that part is talking? We should be listening. Now, again, just I'll maybe end this in saying this does not mean we don't have a mercy, Rahmanas, on me, myself, personally. Let's say if a person needs money. So Rahmanas, just like the neighbor needs money, you need money. That's great. So we can pray about that. But the prayer doesn't come from me needing money. It comes from the Shechita, which is, again, as we explained, one level of God speaking to another level. And that higher level, which is within me, has also mercy on me and gives me the health, the money, the physical stuff, the good children, everything that I could ask for. But it doesn't come because that's what's important here. That's not what's happening here. What's happening here is a much, much higher level, and there's a lot more beauty to it. There's Shira Shirim, it's like a song. And again, we're not going to have time to go into it, but basically there's one song, Shir, and Shirim, many songs. So there's a couple ways of looking at it, but one way of looking at it is every person is praying, but it all comes together to one big song, one big prayer. It's one big play, let's call it. And when we're connecting to that, we're just trying to listen and understand. And that's the beauty of prayer, the way we look at it. And there's a lot more to speak about, both in prayer and in relationship. We didn't even go into, I wanted to explain that in business it's the same thing, that you need to have a person that you can communicate with, that you can talk. This way things could come out. Tikkun, in order to fix, to grow things, to make money, it's the same concept, that you need to have things come out. So all of these things come out when you detach yourself, the part of me that wants and only thinks about myself, and you look at this beautiful song that is happening when you pray. So to me, a phenomenal way of looking at it, and we will probably get more of this next week. And I urge everybody to read the Nefro, the Wonders this week. It's phenomenal and speaks about this in length. And there's a lot of things that I wanted to discuss that we don't have time. But we have to go. And again, we're saying, especially this week, which is a tough week health-wise, both for my son and for Rabbi Ginzburg and for lots of other people that are dealing with health problems, that this Song of Songs, when we're praying for everyone together to be Refaenu, and the biggest refuah, the biggest health comes from having redemption and having no. As Rabbi Ginzburg spoke about, we spoke about this a couple, maybe a month or two ago, that the biggest one between we speak about God's name. the biggest win to connect, to make God names whole, is to kill Amalek. And the highest level of Amalek is health issues, that it wants to, is death, that it wants to end life. And Be'ezrat Hashem, everyone should have some health. I will leave a minute or two for questions, and then we'll say Shabbat Shalom. So any questions, you can both unmute or... so someone's asking about my son's name. So with discussions with Rabbi Ginzburg, we have not named him yet. We have a beautiful name in mind. He's just Arach Hanolad Ben Ayala, the son of Ayala. My wife is Ayala. That's her name. So we're all praying for Arach Hanolad Ben Ayala. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? Pretty sure you can unmute yourself. If you can't, then just put it in the chat. I'll ask Elazar to look into it. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us. And as I say every week, Wednesday is a good time to say Shabbat Shalom because we're starting the week where Shabbat is in the middle. And we thank Kadosh Baruch Hu for allowing us to learn these beautiful wonders. Shabbat Shalom.